But let's go ahead and see what happens. Starting off on Babylon in the bottom right, it is ByuN for Shopify Rebellion.
In the blue, representing Alpha X, it's Ragnarok.
You know, it's a marine-based build. That much Ragnarok would know, but you know, is it 4 racks or is it going up to a starport? It's a big difference. And I was saying he might know immediately because I thought a Ling would be positioned where the Marines just went out, but it's not. And even if it was, ByuN again so mindful of just partitioning his units so they're not all seen together. Oh,
you're kidding me. That Zergling on the right, this is so bad. I mean, the only thing worse is, look, now he puts a Zergling out to give him the illusion of I've got full map vision. This is so bad. Okay, he should realize there's only 3 Marines there. He should know there's an attack. He's got to morph banelings. It's a lot of Marines arriving at the doorstep. Baneling nest is done. He has a decent Zergling count, but he's up 15 workers right now. Very greedy situation for Ragnarok. He's making 4 banelings. Remember, this is ByuN. He is the master of focusing banelings down.
Right. He could choose to engage, right? But he could also choose not to. And that's, again, going back to that ebb and flow trickiness that I was trying to discuss, which is that Ragnarok can't chase, you know, off of creep without Bane speed. He's not chasing down Marines to, well, maybe he would, but that also could be a mistake, right? So you want to try and read this, defend against any potential pull of the trigger from the Terran, but then also make sure that you're droning enough not to fall behind. And what could actually still not turn out to be a bit of a macro game. Now, it's definitely not an ideal one for the Terran without a 3rd CC, and in fact, it might not be one at all. Maybe ByuN turns this into a 2-base tank attack. Okay, 3rd CC is on the way. I was going to say it'd be quite late, but just throwing it out there. But yeah, it could turn into a macro game.
This push here doesn't need to kill Ragnarok, but it needs to slow him down and start to kind of limit his ability to build economy. I like the positioning for Ragnarok. He forces him to siege so far back.
Well, he is taking this base. Now, it's a base that he might be able to give up because he does have another 4th on the way. So that you know, Zerg trick, right? Oh, no, I lost a base. But that is a nice tank spot for ByuN that he can run back into. And we saw this abused a lot over, well, any tournament, honestly. So yeah, that's an easy snipe. Not really all that crucial to Ragnarok's development, though. The major concern would maybe be Larva if he really can't get a 5th hatchery up and running.
Oh, 2-2 upgrades coming in for both sides. Now, it feels like Ragnarok not pulling the trigger. I think he's kind of just chilling out and waiting for now, but 4th Command Center is on the way. ByuN is getting higher and higher in supply and setting himself up for the late game with that 2nd factory coming in as well. As the infestation pit comes in for Ragnarok, that'll unlock Hive. It feels like he's really waiting for ByuN to make that mistake, overstep somewhere where Ragnarok gets the opportunity to crush the army. But a surprising amount of patience. But there we go. He's going to jump on it.
Yeah, some Marines are going to be saved, and the tank is getting quite a few shots on those banelings. Oh, exactly.
Oh, my lord.
Yeah, wow. This is actually turning sour on Ragnarok. This was supposed to be a complete removal of the army and end up just only really removing the tank. So many Marines left over. Such wonderful trades against those banelings. That is not at all what Ragnarok was hoping for.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a 3rd factory coming up with a reactor and, you know, some Widow Mines getting mixed in there or something as well, just to add a little bit of depth to the army. The production tab is insane for Ragnarok. You can really tell Ragnarok was saying, okay, he's going to attack me. He has to attack me. Terran always has to attack the Zerg. And he was just waiting for that big mistake, that move out. Beyond this, absolutely switch gears to turtle mode. He realizes that's a threat. But now you've got pathogen glands, vipers. You've got the greatest spire for a potential broodlord swap. And I mean, broodlords destroy mass tank. 3 more factories on the way for ByuN. He's going to be able to make tons of Thors reactively. That's all about getting lots of tech lab factories. So if he sees broodlords, he can make 5 Thors at once.
Yeah. Get it, man. I love it. I mean, ghosts are also a fine answer when you can get them, but currently ByuN is actually rather well. Okay, hold on. I was going to say ByuN is, I think, still kind of on the correct composition, right? Which is that it's basically just Marine tank, only a handful of Marauders. 1, because he's maxed out and hadn't traded yet, but 2, because Ragnarok was also still only maxed out on basically that Ling Baneling. Now some Spellcasters, now some Tier 3 units could be making their way out. ByuN's been controlling this very well, again, from a position in which I think we both identified as him being behind, but I was arguing that it's still manageable because ByuN just does this. This is so... what really makes him special, in my opinion. But the continuing adaptations going on here, and the real counter that is Thor Hellbat coming out, and of course adding in some Ghosts too. I'm really scared that Ragnarok, you know, the best time for him to win, as you were saying, defensive link baneling fights might already be going away. And is he actually better in the late game with Broodlord Spellcaster than ByuN, who seems to be reading him perfectly?
There's only queens for anti-air, so even after abducting the liberators, they just fly back, and then they just siege again. And then they get abducted again, and they fly back, and they siege again. So you really need something that actually takes those liberators out. I think Ragnarok will probably add Spore Crawlers on the front line. He's building a single Hydralisk right now. But with no Infestors, there's also no real threat to the Ghost. So I think normally I like ByuN's army against an Infestor-heavy force, but now, seeing no Infestors, adding more Ghosts, a perfect call.
Mm-hmm. I'm really concerned, man. I know we've seen a couple of Supreme late game TVZs where it is a literal just contest, the best Zerg army head to head against the best Terran army. But generally, I'd say if we compare this to other TVZs, hold on a second, Ragnarok seems like he wants to go, and he actually is pulling the trigger all off of creep into the tanks, into the mech units. The banelings are getting connections, or at least trying to, as the Thors get picked up again. The baneling number is still enough taking that planetary, and Ragnarok can say that he did break this, but it's not like you broke ByuN.
Yeah, remember, every single fight is basically Ragnarok throwing haymakers. He has so many banelings, it's so cost inefficient. If he doesn't knock ByuN out of this game, these fights are not good for him in the long run. But he's mining a forward base here already. That's what's so good for Ragnarok. If Ragnarok mines out both of the middle bases, that means he can be 2 bases extra efficiency. He also transferred drones to the front bases. He's kept the bases in the back free. Zombie Grub, I've been shouting for the last 2 years that we have literally looked at so many Turtle Zerg versus Terrans, and as a commentator, I've been screaming at my screen saying, please start transferring workers to the front base against Turtle Terrans. Ragnarok, apparently is there saying, I actually have been studying late game Terran, and apparently if they're turtling, you can mine their resources out. He's inflicting damage indirectly just by removing the resources from ByuN's side of the map first. If ByuN gets out there and denies these bases, then he can move the drones to the further back ones. This is such a smart move by Ragnarok. Mass Broodlord Baneling Viper seems to be the comp.
Yeah, I mean, he's really developing into that perfect late game Zerg army. You know, the Broodlords aren't very plentiful, the Spellcasters aren't very plentiful, and especially without Neural Parasite, you know, late game Zerg can be, you know, that's not fulfilled. But if you do get, let's call them a buttload of Broodlords, lots of Spellcasters, and threatening Neural Parasite and Shark Infestors, then that is very scary to deal with, 100%. So ByuN is going to have to keep that in mind as well as we add on those Infestors. Could be worried about some fungals, some burrowed EMPs, right? Stealing the Ghost away. And just in general, even stealing the Thors away with Neural Parasite is a very effective move. How many Broodlords is that? 15? They're going to be decently upgraded as well. I mean, ByuN's also well upgraded. 16 Ghosts, 8 Thors, and Hellbats. So it's basically Spooky Mech at this point, 100% actually. And just needs to get a good position with the actual engagement when it's forced, because, you know, I think this is going to be where it's going to happen, man.
That cliff's a problem for the Thors. Notice how Ragnarok's trying to utilize that. Remember, Broodlords may be faster now, but their broodlings only last about half as long. You don't notice that normally in a short-term battle, but this attacking your own creep tumors to spawn broodlings from far away, that doesn't work anymore. That's what Dark used to use. A lot of the guys to siege players from a screen or two away. That's not gonna work out. So in these drawn-out situations, it does feel like the Broodlord is a worse unit than it used to be.
True. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that for a while. We were talking a lot about the patch and the implications in Katowice, and then I guess we didn't really see all that many very, very long late game TVZs to get that highlighted. But certainly I heard some of the Zerg saying that it was a pretty big deal. It was a pretty big nerf to their viability in a Supreme late game scenario. But still, some late game Zergs definitely still winning out. So we have a lot of the kind of miscellaneous upgrades being gotten now at this point. ByuN going for the medevac boost. I mean, it's not really worth getting very early on, but it is an effective upgrade, let's call it that way. Both of them building up humongous banks as well. And again, looking for the best possible attack. But I agree with your point. I think ByuN having to push into this army, dealing with that ledge, that's just bad news for the army comp that he has.
Yeah, he's got to try and get some efficiency. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't got a nuke or two just to zone. just to allow him to mine this base safely. Like, I really feel like, hey, this base has got thousands and thousands of resources. He's doing good ghost snipe attempts, but the infestors have been added in. 2 of those ghosts going down, and the tanks are friendly firing everything. They're killing the planetary there, like so much friendly fire from the siege tanks. The ghosts have been taking the friendly fire a little bit as well. 9 more broodlords making. Oh, we're going to see 30 plus broodlords this game. This is going to be a really crazy number of broodlords, and if you can't protect those Thors, you know, they're going to go down. It's really hard with the banelings able to roll in on the ghosts. Broodlords on the south go down. Nice split of the army for ByuN.
Actually, yeah, I do like this split. Certainly, even as the game gets smaller, and this isn't exactly a super like wide dimension map, the Broodlords get more effective because they don't have as much to cover. But if you can take advantage of Broodlord immobility, then you absolutely should. So that is what ByuN is finally doing, realizing that the just like trying to force the head-to-head wasn't favoring him. Finally takes out this bottom left base, but it's already been mined out so much. Really kudos to Ragnarok for doing that. This base didn't get to mine, but at least it's creeped up for an extended period of time, and ByuN might still, like, honestly at this point might be scratching his head a little bit about the actual end game, but kind of maybe keep your head down, do the work that you know you can do, and then see what happens afterwards as he finally clears up the south side.
So you're not only worried about the Hellbats being positioned to stop these broodlings, you've also got to have all of this going. Oh, big snipes!
Yeah, you notice the overseers went with the army, and they were a little south, so they did miss the initial ghost snipes. Fungal helped out, and overall the broodlord count still stays high, but ByuN's moving from left to right has caused Ragnarok to make moves of his own, which is further allowing ByuN's little tag teams to actually, 1, find things out of position, and 2, kill some bases that Ragnarok would still like to have mining freely. I mean, he's got a bank, but you don't just want to let all your bases go, right? So, I mean, these are the openings that ByuN was kind of hoping to create, and maybe they aren't exactly killing Ragnarok, whose army is just fantastic, but I feel better about ByuN's position than I did just a minute ago when everything seemed locked up in Ragnarok's favor.
Yeah, and remember, ByuN built the Iron Bank this game. He has like 10 orbital command centers, so he can drop mules for days. Like, he can just spam mules on a base whenever he takes it. Yeah, 9 orbital command centers. Whereas for Ragnarok, he's kind of annoyed at this point because he's like, well, I've got 50 drones, but even with that, I can't really mine these resources that quickly. I can't even secure these bases. Every second that this drags out favors ByuN because he just drops a command center, turns it into a planetary. He's much better in a defensive stance, drops 20 mules and mines the base out in a matter of minutes, and he's going to be able to drop his worker count even lower if he wants. He's at 40 workers, which gives him an extra 10 army supply. He can drop that down to 20 workers, just use the SCVs to build buildings, repair things, take the gas mining, and rely purely on mules for mineral mining. Zerg does not have that option. They have to put supply in drones if they want to keep mining going. It's a big end game advantage for Terran. It may be hard to attack, but you kind of force the Zerg to make a play by building this massive orbitals and using this advantage.
Right. Compare the mini map to just 2 minutes ago, and I think the feeling is very different. 2 minutes ago, with all the creep, all the bases, Ragnarok taking ByuN's bases, it felt very tight for the Terran. Like they couldn't breathe, and now it's kind of flipped, where Ragnarok is definitely the one that is forced to make these decisions, actually forced to do stuff. He can't just give away bases and be okay with it. He wants to get something in return, and so he's trying to. But every time he pushes into ByuN, who is defensively positioned, even if it's not his entire army, ByuN's army is also effective. You really have the best late game compositions for either team, and it's how they use it, right? So ByuN initially going just kind of head to head in this upper right base wasn't going so well. Makes it a bit more mobile, suddenly doing a lot better. Does lose the space once again, but it's turning into a bit of a clock situation. You take south, I take north, and then we'll flip again.
No knifey spoony here, but that is a big push. The Broodlord's coming in. They're starting to take some big hits. Big hits landing, and the flanks from the top. Those ghosts, oh, great funnels. The Ling Bane's going to ransack that left army. There is still 19 Broodlords left versus 11 Thors. The Banelings, if they get rid of the Hellbats and the ghosts, then these Thors are going to start getting taken. Infestors coming in with the Neurals. The Banelings, so supply efficient. This is massive for Ragnarok.
Yo, but this was the longest battle in StarCraft 2, seriously. Like, that's covered multiple screens and lasted a full minute, which is saying something in StarCraft 2. I think every time that Ragnarok thought that he had a burst, right? His baneling's connected, his infestor's got the fungal, they got the neural parasite, usually that point in which the Zerg feels very confident and it's kind of like a do or die situation. ByuN came out with more units, man. You know, first it was like the left side army comes through. Okay, I fungled that, so I'm okay, right? And then you kill the Hellbats, so I'm really doing well, right? And then suddenly another Thor army comes from behind, the reinforcements, and then Ragnarok doesn't have enough staying power, basically. He kind of used up all of the initial burst that Zerg will have when they finally choose to take an engagement. And ByuN just kind of outlasted him. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that was still good enough for Ragnarok, who had that huge bank, but you do want to be careful always doing that, right? Like, what if it goes a little bit worse next time? What if you don't get the couple of those fungals? What if the banelings don't kill all the Hellbats? Then the Thor-Hellbat combination will just absolutely obliterate Broodlords, but that was a funny one.
There's a Ragnarok baneling zombie grub. So as much as I agree with all of your analysis, can he withstand 77 banelings coming forwards? Ragnarok just going for broke right now. Fungals, banelings rolling into a spread of Thors. The Ghost trying to pull backwards. The baneling count seems endless. Ragnarok taking one of the dirtiest engagements I've ever seen in my life, and I do not think it goes his way. As long as there's enough Thors to hold off the Broodlords, he is now at a 20,000 deficit in the resources lost. That was an absolute slaughter.
So I think that's a brilliant move for 9 times out of 10 in TVZ, where it mostly is the case that Zerg Remax is faster, especially because you choose to Remax on Ling Baneling, which is all that's pumped out from your bajillion larvae you've saved up over a 30-minute game. But ByuN actually was also basically maxed out, right? That was a very even supply engagement. So then basically what, if you really boil that down to, was mostly Ling Baneling against spooky battle mech, spooky ghost mech, whatever you want to call it. It was mostly mech units, which banelings are, you know, infamously not the best against, as long as they're a tiny bit spread out, and the ghosts were controlled back and back and back and back and back. So then the Broodlords, you know, were trying to do their thing, trying to abuse some tank fire on the Thors, trying to take care of the Thors before they had the Hellbats or ghosts back on the front lines. But what a resource committal. I mean, that is just Madman Ragnarok, and the only reason he still has the supply that he does was because he had that huge bang from earlier. Otherwise, you pointed out, resources lost, big difference from a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, I mean, a few command centers have gone down, so the mule income isn't as great, but it still seems like, you know, usually Terran is better in this scenario, but I don't know, 30 army supply advantage. Ragnarok is once again ready to throw the kitchen sink at him. Everything that isn't nailed down has been uprooted and put into this push. He is going to shove it in, but that's a terrible angle. Neural Parasite's pretty good, though.
Yes, yeah, great neural parasites coming down. A lot of the Thors taken out of the equation. That spread on the backside from ByuN might be very impressive and might be very efficient, but ByuN just didn't have that same bank. He has been looking for pennies to try and replace the army this time around. So Ragnarok finally able to say, I actually did bust the Terran army. You cannot remake. I remade faster. I had the bigger bank, and let me just finally take this game. It's going to be a 3CC build following this up for ByuN. So I know you mentioned that last game.
Oh, imagine if Ragnarok was going baneling bust. Like, on this spawns, if there's a spawns to do it, you keep mentioning spawns, and with great reason. It makes such a difference when you go for the low ground wall off. You know, when you don't get punished, people say, why don't we always low ground wall off? It's so nice. It's so smooth to have your natural already walled off at the start, but there's a reason. But hold that thought. Reapers are getting surrounded. A couple Lings waiting on the high ground. Not enough to take him out, though. 3 Reapers do beat 4 Zerglings. He's going to try and escape back to the low ground. High ground, low ground, high ground, low ground. Queen and Zerglings will say no, but hey, forcing some spore tricks, and even gets a drone as well. Very nice play by ByuN. Gets a bit more value out of those 3 Reapers than I expected. Yeah, we've seen multiple players spot their opponents ready for it and then just dive the Raven in. The Raven is a unit that is meant to be recycled. It's much like an Oracle. It's much better the longer you keep it alive. If you just throw it away, it's a disastrous investment. It's really bad. And ByuN continuing on when he saw the Queens was a huge mistake. Maybe he just spotted it too late. He'd clicked it in, looked away, looked back, and it was already past the point of no return. So he said, why not try to get an auto turret down? But now the big Ling counterattack comes in, losing a lot of mining time. And an SCV or 2 on that base, most of them very heavily wounded now. Ragnarok has complete control. We already saw in that last game what Ragnarok looks like when he has control, when he's ahead of his opponent. And I've got to ask the question against a guy who you're the faster player, you're the more skilled player in ByuN vs Ragnarok. I don't think that's controversial. I think Ragnarok would agree. He'd say, yeah, he's faster than me. Yeah, he can multitask better than me. Going for a 2x Reaper opening, which Ragnarok appears to be a master of shutting down, seems like a massive strategic misplay. Yeah, and Ragnarok, I mean, his Spire's a little later than the Hive, but I still feel if he goes straight Greater Spire, makes 6 Broodlords, 8 Broodlords, and goes, I don't think there's any way ByuN holds on against that. ByuN's trying to push right now. Maybe he can find some good fights here in the mid game. Equal upgrades right now. The drops going around picking off banelings. Hive is about to finish. A Viper or 2 would be amazing to Blinding Cloud that tank position. And I think this rich gas base, probably just give that up. There's no reason to sit here and fight this. I think as Ragnarok, try to get run bys if you can, though that's very difficult before your opponent takes a 4th base, and just wait for that Hive tech to come on in. Adrenal Glands would be great. 2 Vipers, it seems like, as well as Hydra, Ling Bane, Viper coming in. I'm curious about the Spire. It feels like Ragnarok's going in many different directions at once. To go Hydralisk tech and for Broodlords at the same time seems like a little bit much.
It is a lot to commit to, but ByuN isn't really able to punish him. He's taking it very nice, slow and steady, so he clears up the creep and then says, I guess that's, that's it, right? I'm not going to really push my luck here, which, I don't know, maybe he could have, maybe a little bit more. He did scout the Spire, I believe, with that medevac drop that got destroyed. So in that sense, I think the medevac drop still died with dignity, because seeing the Spire at that timing is a big sign that it's going to be Broodlords, right? There's just no other. What else did you get at in this type of game? So he'll be prepared for that.
No Liberators to take down with Corruptors or anything like that. Not that many drops, and Corruptor Ling Bane is not really something we've seen in many years.
And then even if you didn't, the tanks are also friendly firing. You have a bajillion things to control, and tanks focus firing is one of the last things sometimes you get around to. Widow Mines are actually...
Oh my gosh!
Lords. Oh, nicely done. Marines looking out exactly for that snipe, and Ragnarok just kind of let him have it. But yeah, continuing on, Widow Mines are bad against Broodlords, but good against Ling Baneling. So there's more to it when it came to those final fights last game. But just in general, if ByuN had some more splash units impacting the overwhelming Ling Baneling that Ragnarok just loves going back into at any point in the game, I think he actually could have done much better too. And he might be identifying that. He certainly is playing up to that type of game once again.
Oh my lord, that is so many Baneling zombie grab. Clicking on the... Oh my god, clicks on the command center, but doesn't even get the other one with the splash. The Marines are well spread. The Banelings go for the other planetary. Oh my lord. Ragnarok taking the most disgustingly inefficient fight. He gets 3 command centers. So there's an argument that it ruins a lot of ByuN's income and infrastructure, but cost for cost, it's just nasty to look at that giant ball of Banelings roll off creep.
I know, right? If he didn't get those command centers, how big is the resource difference? The resources loss difference?
Oh, yeah.
Like 8K? I mean, that's crazy.
The Broodlords are now morphing. Ghosts have got out, though, so I feel like if he went straight to Broodlords, I really agree, it would have been a kill timing earlier. Now, there is the dream of defense. It's still going to be very tough for ByuN. Trying to build Vikings as well. I think he even take out one of his own medevacs to clear up supply. He desperately needs to get anti-air, and he just needs to survive. He's got so many tanks, which is great against the Banelings, but not able to take it out just yet. Now, those are actually destructible things, by the way, behind the central base. I still have not yet seen a single pro player realize they can take those out and move those tanks further forward, and they're actually in like an amazing position if you really tuck them right in the corners, but I don't know if the pro players even know about that. We'll find out one day.
I literally discovered this like a week ago. I accidentally shot it, and then the next day I cast someone who misclicked on it and lost a fight. So people are discovering it, but you're right. I just don't think, because alongside a lot of the other maps, honestly, we've only recently seen people really abuse some of the breakable rocks, the ones that collapse and then cut off reinforcements. So
yeah,
the map pool, despite now being months old, is kind of still being figured out.
Oh, here we go. Tank fire covering that base. Nice defense so far by ByuN. He's got 93 workers. That might be a few too many for ByuN, but I mean, obviously it gives him massive income, massive production abilities as well. And Ragnarok here taking more and more gases. Oh my lord, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bases of gas. He's going to go up to 14 gases. I guess his main is probably getting pretty low, but Ragnarok is just one of the gas heaviest Zergs I've ever seen. He is so gas hungry because His regular ground units, which are normally mineral heavy, are all banelings, which are very gas expensive. He's got 2 types of spellcasters. He's got mass broodlords. He's got every upgrade that you can possibly imagine. And yeah, he finds a way to just spend an insane amount of gas, probably far more than anyone else. The tanks need to unsiege. I think maybe he's afraid of the banelings, though. The way Ragnarok threatens with those banelings, it's like you have to leave the tank siege, but then they're doing so much friendly fire. It's very frustrating to play against this army because at any moment Ragnarok may just roll 100 banelings into you.
Yeah. I mean, so he does stop that from being a real problem by having just a decent number of units. That you know, the Vikings shooting up without anything retaliating was always nice. But I'm gonna stick with it. You don't really ever see Terrans try and go up to, let's say, 16 Vikings. You know, it's just too bad against the options of anti-air that Zerg could get if they saw you doing that. So the Thors really wanted to be out already compared to last game, and they are not. Only 4 of them available. Not a huge Hellbat count. Still those tanks sieged up again, having that double-edged sword to them. They need to defend against the banelings, but they can't help out against the broodlings.
Whoa, a few command centers do get taken out. By the way, ByuN did clear those rocks and move those tanks forward. They're going to hit the banelings in a big way. Oh, those tanks landing some massive shots. 48 kills on that siege tank. I mean, I guess kill counts become meaningless once broodlords are on the field because they are free babies that are just constantly spawned into combat. The Hydra baneling, they're trying to pick off some of these units, just dancing around. Ragnarok is taking a lot of bases. I'd love to see him mine out the very top right of the map as well, but he's already doing so much damage. And ByuN's bank actually a bit closer to Ragnarok's this time around compared to last game, but a lot of SCVs are falling. That's not too bad for ByuN. He had so many SCVs, he probably doesn't mind replacing that with extra army.
Yes, I think that's okay. He's been getting slowly picked at, but he's also been very capable of replacing whatever gets picked off. So that never had one moment of just go for it that Ragnarok was certainly looking for. And the positioning of the tanks with the minerals, I think, is one big issue. The fact that ByuN finally did get up to the composition more so that he was hoping for. Now rounding it out with the upgrades as well was definitely missing. And so Ragnarok, you know, the Massling Baneling couldn't kill his opponent. The Mass Broodlord, Blitz couldn't kill his opponent. Now it is time to add on those spellcasters, really get to that amazing late game composition that he did last game.
I feel like nukes would be amazing. I really hope ByuN adds them. I don't know if they're really part of his focus right now. You can see there the snipe change, those banelings getting out of range of snipe. For those who don't know, snipe now does have a maximum range. It isn't just about if you've got vision like it used to be, you can actually run away quickly and break it. So gives the Zerg a little bit more kind of disengagement opportunity compared to if you were watching matches a year ago. It's all going to be about the technicality with the engagements and the direct efficiency. Ragnarok now poking with these broodlords. Every building he gets is valuable. ByuN's going to want to have to replace those. And Infest is just throwing these zoning fungals, catching the Vikings and Liberators a little bit, peppering them down. Abducts on the Liberators and actually having things that shoot up to take him out this time. Fungals landing all over those air units. The Vipers do stumble forward a little bit. Parasitic bombs on the Medivacs, but nice spready there from ByuN. ByuN's trying to hold on, but my God, that's a lot of broodlords. And now the banelings come through.
Where is ByuN's supply, man? I'm looking at the supply, expecting ByuN's to just dive bomb, and yet he's the one coming out a little bit ahead. Of course, Ragnarok's not remaxed yet. He's controlling this mass wave of banelings, trying to get those pins that are the ghosts at this point. He's got to get them. He doesn't care if it's only 4 ghosts. He's got to get it. Get it.
Oh, my Lord. Such a good spread there from ByuN, making sure like 6 banelings have to blow up on each ghost. ByuN takes a lovely fight. Now he's just got to withstand the next wave. If we can see that production tab, Masslings coming across the map. I know what that looks like on the minimap. He's got nothing to deal with the Broodlords. He's trying to scramble together a defense, and Mass Zergling killing 28 Hydras in the units tab. He's remaxed on Mass Hydra. Ragnarok's going to be able to run in here and overwhelm this. The Ghost trying to defend, but there just wasn't enough units here. ByuN unable to withstand this avalanche of Zerg. Just too many Broodlords microed too well. And we see that Ghosts, when there's good fungals, when there's good coverage on the ground, do not necessarily beat Broodlords. It's all about the micro, the engagements, and the angles that you take. And my gosh, the supply is so even, but where is it for ByuN? As you said, it's all popping out and dying as it pops.
Yeah, that's what I've been asking for the last few, the last minute, really. Again, an extended battle as far as StarCraft 2 goes. It does look like Ragnarok just simply has too much momentum. The remax on just pure base units, I suppose you could call them, tier 1 and tier 2, Ling, baneling, Hydra, really was, again, a good call because it needed to be fast and it needed to be max. ByuN, at given time, had the bank. And then the last game, he was given just enough time twice. This time around, it really was down to time. It wasn't down to the actual engagement or the actual bank. He had both of them okay. It was the time, but maybe
wait.
The bank is actually starting to, yeah,
ByuN's
the bank is
rebuilding
actually
barracks.
proving to be good enough.
This is madness. This is absolutely crazy. He's rebuilding 12 barracks on the right side of the map right now. He's dropping so many mules. He's got so many minerals. His gas income's not amazing. He's losing tech and infrastructure. He's going to clean up this army. It's actually trapped in here. He's going to move in with Thors and Liberators. This is wild. Ragnarok doesn't really have much income behind this. He's mined out his side of the map a lot quicker. The Thors popping out, having to swap to high impact payload, trying to snipe down infestors in the midst of the action. The Liberators and Thors will take this out. Oh my lord, this game is an absolute scrap fest. Ragnarok really must have thought he had this one in the bag, but he just couldn't quite finish him off.
How many times do you see the Zerg player break into the natural and specifically the main base of the Terran, and that's pretty much game over, especially when it's mass crackling, because the crackling just surrounds every unit that pops out. So they're never very effective. But because ByuN
going Hydras, do you think? Or
yes, I do think that. I saw, because one of the first things that looked like this might be like an okay situation was that ramp hold. I think we might get a highlight, I don't know, but that ramp hold, and then he just mass sniped Hydras. I think Hydras were not necessarily all that beneficial in the way that he was hoping. I still love the idea. I absolutely love the idea that Ragnarok said, let's go, let's take this momentum, let's try and win right here, right now. What are the fastest units, and what's some backup on those units in case, 5 Marines get tucked into a corner, because that's when Lings suck. But it wasn't all coming out in due time, and ByuN had so much production everywhere, and again, so much bank, that even if he was losing a handful of production units this way and that to reinforcements, he was still building. And now he's counter pushing against Ragnarok.
Oh my lord, there's no banelings this time. 14 of them are morphing, but they're not ready just yet. He needs the banelings to clear up the Hellbats. But look at this, ByuN is shoving on in towards this central rich gas base. That's going to get sniped. Does ByuN want to keep going on creep? He's got a 50 supply army lead. That is huge. You're down in workers, but you've got a big army lead. It might just be a winning play to push. He's going to back off. I like the cautious approach. I actually really respect that. It's just Lingbane, Hydra, and adding siege tanks, adding ghosts. That's the way to do it. Tanks counter banelings and Hydras. Ghosts counter the Vipers, mix some Marines and everything else in as well. And oh my god, look at the spread. Beautiful setup for ByuN.
Yeah, Ragnarok, what was, I guess he just really wasn't expecting that much Terran army, but that's it, man.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say ByuN is showing amazing ability to really play out these long games and patiently fight back from behind. But I think his opening build choice is terrible. 2-1-1 follow-up. Just go for the factory, go for the starport. So 3 different follow-ups in 3 different games for ByuN.
And I do like that. So whatever the reason they feels very comfortable for the 2 racks opener, whatever. But it does lead naturally into the 2-1-1 follow-up more naturally than everything else. Although following up with 4 racks, following up with a faster 3cc isn't exactly, bad or super unideal. But
in the old days, it was just an alternative attack, I believe, that did like 30 damage to buildings. It was like
I've been watching StarCraft history, just watching GSL Season 1, and I forgot that for the first season, Nitro Packs was a very popular opening build.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Speed. I forgot Reaper Speed existed. Yeah.
Good times, man.
Well, Auto Turret Harass completely knocked back here by Ragnarok. Doesn't even lose a single drone. Very nicely done. I really want to see that Raven survive for future clearing ups. And here we go. Big Marine tank push on the left side of the map. Let's see what he can find with it. 1-1 upgrades aren't here. Neither is combat shields. Those are just stim Marines. Auto turret in the main base again in the picture in your bottom right. Queen's starting to drop. The banelings aren't quite ready. Oh no, Ragnarok might have slipped up.
Yeah, those banelings coming in just seconds late. A lot of queens are able to be removed, and even when the banelings are finished, if you don't have enough kind of accompanying them, 16 Marines in ByuN's hands are still very, very scary. Already feeling like this is more of what I expected from this TVZ, a little action-packed mid-game push, early mid-game push from the Terran. Ragnarok on a bit of the ropes. This time around, we have the Raven surviving. I mean, honestly, last game was once again setting up, kind of from the get-go to be passive, and unfortunate for ByuN with his Raven dying right off the bat. This time around, we get the drop, we get the push, we get the kills, we get the Raven out of there, I guess. And, well, this feels like ByuN in his mid-game element.
Raven just hanging out on the right side of the map, waiting. It's going to drop an auto turret perhaps before exiting, but no, does decide to just pull on out. Wants to rotate that with some Marines to clear up creep on the right side of the map. Anti-armor missile can also be massive as well. Combat shields was remembered, so a sigh of relief for the Terran fans out there, as that is one of the most forgotten upgrades in all of StarCraft. But the Marines will get that plus 10 hit points. Very important against Zerglings and Banelings. And, oh, here we go. Bit of an ambush for Ragnarok.
But off creep with slow banelings. That wasn't so much an ambush.
He thought he was ambushing. Let's put it that way, Zombie Grub. He thought he was the ambusher, but he was walking into a trap. Oh, my Lord. He saw the door was left open. He walked inside. He saw some valuables on the table, went to pick them up, and then he realized the door had closed behind him. ByuN stepped out with a chainsaw, and that was not a good situation for Ragnarok at all. Now the momentum is all on ByuN's side. He's taken so much damage as Ragnarok. The spawning pool goes down. The Marines pick up. They've already taken out the fourth base. They're going to go back to the low ground. So much control in this game now for ByuN. He's in his element, and this is what we expected ByuN to do. A lot more aggression and multitasking to really just leverage his mechanics.
And also just really set Ragnarok off, just be like, you have to respond to me, which I honestly think Ragnarok was going to be worse at. Yeah, if Ragnarok survived, which I think he's totally capable of, I'm not saying he's that much worse. If he survived and got maxed out and lane baneling all day long, then yeah, he's very scary. I think we're absolutely right to call that for him, but it's leading up to that point that I would figure that ByuN would be able to abuse, and finally we see it work out in this third game. Ragnarok then just gifting him so many units and such an obvious green light to attack into him as well is a real bummer. I mean, you compared it to the door closing behind him. I think of that commercial where they go and hide from the serial killer in the chainsaw like shit. And you're like, that just, oof, that was, and it just gets worse. No cancel right there, right? Yeah, no cancel.
Oh, yeah, that is a tough one right now. Ragnarok so far behind on supply, and the Raven becomes the most annoying unit in these scenarios. Yeah, you want the spores and the queens behind the mineral lines to stop that, but oh, the Marine drop on the right side is still going. These 7 Marines, absolute veterans. They've taken down so many Lings, Banes, and Drones. The Marines on the left side also taxing Ragnarok on every which way. The 2-2 upgrades are ahead. 4th command center is finishing, and he's up to 8 barracks behind it. So ByuN, he's even going to set up siege tanks in. Oh, the disgusting positions of these tanks. This is so hard for Ragnarok to deal with.
Oh, man, yeah, and there's 2 tanks, guys. One on the right, one on the left. With everything going on, Ragnarok just kind of fizzles out, taps out.